Under the Colorado Plateau, the lithosphere was hydrated by a subduction event, and the hydration weakened the lithosphere.
Right now, deep beneath the Colorado Rockies, the ground is still rising, splitting, and sliding. A supervolcano once erupted here with a force thousands of times greater than Mount St. Helens. A mountainside near Lake City is creeping downhill as you read this. And in the 1960s, the US military accidentally triggered a swarm of earthquakes beneath the city of Denver. Colorado looks majestic, solid, eternal. It is one of the most geologically violent places on the continent. From a billion-year-old canyon to the tallest sand dunes in North America, here are 35 reasons why Colorado is far more terrifying than its postcards admit. The mountains that rose inland. The modern Rocky Mountains are a geological riddle. Most Great Ranges rise at the edges of continents, where plates collide, but the Rockies heaved upward hundreds of miles inland. During the Laramide orogeny, roughly 70 to 40 million years ago, an oceanic plate is thought to have slid almost horizontally beneath North America, crumpling the crust far from any coastline and shoving Colorado's peaks towards the sky. The mountains before the mountains. Today's Rockies are not the first mountains to stand here. Around 300 million years ago, an earlier range geologists call the ancestral Rocky Mountains towered over the same ground. Over tens of millions of years, they eroded almost entirely away, shedding mountains' worth of red sediment across the region. That ancient debris, hardened into stone, now forms the dramatic red rocks of the Front Range, the gravestones of a vanished range. The supervolcano of the San Juans. Hidden in the San Juan Mountains of southwestern Colorado lies the scar of a true supervolcano. About 28 million years ago, the Garita Caldera unleashed one of the largest volcanic eruptions ever identified on Earth. It emptied a magma chamber so vast that the ground collapsed into a crater dozens of miles across, a catastrophe almost beyond imagining. The eruption that dwarfs the rest. The deposit left by that Garita blast, called the Fish Canyon Tuff, is staggering. It represents an estimated 5,000 cubic kilometers of erupted rock, thousands of times more than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. An eruption of that scale would bury entire states in ash and alter the global climate. Colorado was the source of one of the most violent volcanic events in the planet's history. Colorado's youngest volcano. Volcanism here is not all ancient. Near the town of Dotsero, along the Colorado River, sits the state's youngest volcano, which erupted only about 4,000 years ago. It blasted out a broad crater called a maar when rising magma flashed groundwater to steam. By geological standards, that eruption happened practically yesterday, and the region remains volcanically young. The continent pulling apart. Beneath the San Luis Valley, North America is slowly tearing in two. This is the northern reach of the Rio Grande Rift, a great fracture where the continent is being stretched and thinned. As the crust pulls apart, the valley floor drops, faults slip, and magma rises closer to the surface. Colorado is one of the few places where you can stand on a continent in the act of splitting. The oldest rock you can touch. At the bottom of the Black Canyon of the Gunnison lies rock around 1.7 billion years old, among the most ancient exposed anywhere in the country. The canyon is so deep, narrow, and sheer that parts of its floor see only minutes of direct sunlight a day, which is how it earned its name. The Gunnison River soared straight down through this iron-hard basement stone. The Painted Wall. Within the Black Canyon rises the Painted Wall, the tallest sheer cliff in Colorado, plunging some 2,250 feet from rim to river, higher than many of the world's tallest skyscrapers. Pale pink streaks lace its dark face, formed where molten rock was squeezed into cracks in the ancient stone more than 1 billion years ago. Few cliffs in North America are so dizzyingly vertical. The Royal Gorge. West of Canyon City, the Arkansas River has carved the Royal Gorge, a slot canyon roughly 1,250 feet deep, with walls of hard Precambrian granite. The river spent millions of years slicing this narrow chasm as the surrounding land slowly rose around it. In places, the gorge is so tight there was barely room to thread a railroad along the canyon floor. The canyon that drops rocks. Glenwood Canyon, carved by the Colorado River, is one of the most rugged corridors in the state and one of the most hazardous. Its steep walls of ancient rock regularly shed boulders, and fire-scarred slopes above unleash dangerous mudflows during storms. Travelers passing through are moving along the bottom of an actively crumbling canyon. The tallest dunes in North America. Against the foot of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains rises an improbable sight: the Great Sand Dunes, the tallest dunes on the continent, towering up to 750 feet. They built up as wind swept sand from an ancient lakebed and piled it against the mountain wall, where opposing winds trap and stack it ever higher. A vast desert sits stranded high in the mountains. The roof of the Rockies. Colorado is the highest state in the nation, crowned by Mount Elbert at 14,440 feet, the loftiest peak in the entire Rocky Mountain chain. In all, the state boasts more than 50 summits soaring above 14,000 feet, far more than any other. The sheer mass of rock thrust skyward here is staggering, and the thin air at the top can be deadly to the unprepared. The Continental Divide. Snaking along the crest of the Rockies is the Continental Divide, the great hydrological spine of North America. Rain that falls on one side eventually reaches the Pacific. Rain on the other flows to the Atlantic. This invisible line runs the length of Colorado, and the mountains that define it wring moisture from the sky, shaping the climate of half a continent. The Billion-Year Granite. The pink granite of Pikes Peak, one of America's most famous mountains, crystallized from molten rock more than 1 billion years ago, deep underground. Slowly uplifted and stripped of its overlying layers, it now stands bare against the sky. The coarse, sparkling stone weathers into the gritty sand that helped build the red rock formations on the plains below. The Tilted Red Rocks. At Garden of the Gods near Colorado Springs, towering fins of deep red sandstone jut almost vertically from the ground. These rocks were laid down flat as river sediment hundreds of millions of years ago, then tipped on end when the modern Rockies heaved upward. The result is a forest of stone slabs standing on edge like the plates along the back of some buried beast. The Flatirons and Red Rocks. The same dramatic tilting created Boulder's Flatirons and the soaring walls of Red Rock's amphitheater. These are slabs of the Fountain Formation, sediment eroded from the ancestral Rockies that were tilted steeply skyward by the later mountain building. What were once flat-lying beds now lean against the front range like enormous angled ramps of stone. the Dakota Hogbacks. Running along the eastern edge of the Rockies is a long, narrow ridge called the Dakota Hogback, a tilted layer of tough sandstone that erosion left standing while softer rock around it wore away. These hogback ridges trace the line where the rising mountains bent the flat plains upward, and they run almost continuously for hundreds of miles. Dinosaur Ridge. On the slopes near Morrison lies one of the most famous fossil sites in the world. Dinosaur Ridge exposes the Morrison Formation, a layer of Jurassic rock packed with dinosaur bones and footprints. Hundreds of tracks march across tilted slabs of ancient mud, and it was here in the 1870s that some of the first great American dinosaur discoveries were made. 19. The birthplace of Stegosaurus. It was in the rocks near Morrison that scientists first described Stegosaurus, the plated, spike-tailed dinosaur now known around the world and named Colorado's state fossil. The Jurassic beds of the region have also yielded Apatosaurus and Allosaurus, making this stretch of Colorado one of the foundational grounds of dinosaur science. The Wall of Bones. In Colorado's northwestern corner, Dinosaur National Monument preserves an astonishing tilted rock face, studded with roughly 1,500 dinosaur bones, left exactly where they were found. The fossils piled up in an ancient river that buried the bodies in its sandbars. Later uplift tipped the bone bed on end, putting a Jurassic graveyard on near vertical display. The largest dinosaur track site along the Purgatoire River. In southeastern Colorado lies the Picketwire Canyonlands, home to the largest documented dinosaur track site in North America. More than 1,000 footprints left by both giant long-necked plant eaters and meat-eating predators march across an ancient lakeshore now turned to stone, the trackways stretching for hundreds of yards across the canyon floor. The petrified forest of Florissant. At Florissant, west of Pikes Peak, stand the stumps of giant redwoods turned to stone, some more than 10 feet across. About 34 million years ago, volcanic eruptions buried a lush valley in ash and mud, petrifying the trees and entombing countless insects, leaves and flowers in exquisite detail. It is one of the richest fossil sites of its kind on Earth. The vanished inland sea. Colorado's eastern plains hide the record of a lost ocean. During the age of dinosaurs, a vast shallow sea called the Western Interior Seaway split North America in two and flooded the region. Its dark mud hardened into shale full of marine fossils, ammonites, giant clams, and the bones of sea reptiles. The dry plains were once the floor of a continental sea. The Ice Age Time Capsule. High in the mountains near Snowmass Village, crews building a reservoir in 2010 stumbled onto an extraordinary Ice Age site. An ancient lakebed had preserved the bones of mammoths, mastodons, a giant ground sloth, and other vanished beasts in remarkable condition. The high-altitude trove gave scientists a rare glimpse of life during the Great Glacial Ages. The Colorado Mineral Belt. A diagonal stripe of fabulous mineral wealth, the Colorado Mineral Belt cuts across the state from southwest to northeast. Forged where molten rock injected metals into the crust, it became one of the great mining regions of the American West, yielding fortunes in gold, silver, and other ores that raised entire cities almost overnight. the gold in a dead volcano. The town of Cripple Creek sits inside the throat of an ancient volcano. Around 30 million years ago, rising magma shattered the rock and laced it with gold. Long after the volcano died, miners discovered the buried treasure, sparking one of the richest gold rushes in American history. The riches came straight from the plumbing of an extinct volcanic system. The Mountain of Molybdenum. Near Leadville rises Bartlett Mountain, home to the Climax Mine, once the source of much of the world's molybdenum, a metal used to harden steel. The deposit formed where superheated fluids rose from a body of magma below and crystallized in the rock. Mining here has been so vast that it has reshaped the mountain itself. The uranium boom. Southwestern Colorado holds the Uravan mineral belt, rich in uranium and vanadium, locked inside ancient sandstone laid down by Jurassic rivers. During the Cold War, these deposits fueled a frantic uranium rush to supply the nation's atomic program, leaving behind boom towns, mines, and a legacy of radioactive contamination still being cleaned up today. 29. The earthquakes we caused. In the 1960s, the army began pumping toxic wastewater deep underground at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal near Denver. Soon after, a swarm of earthquakes began rattling a region that rarely shakes. Scientists traced the quakes directly to the injection, producing one of the first clear proofs that human activity can trigger earthquakes, a discovery that echoes around the world today. 30. The Creeping Mountain. Near Lake City, an entire mountainside is on the move. The Slumgullion Earthflow is a giant slow-motion landslide that has been oozing downhill for centuries and still creeps several feet a year. The flowing mass of broken rock and soil drags trees along with it, tilting and toppling them, a hillside quite literally on a slow journey to the valley below. The lake born of a landslide. Centuries ago, the upper part of that same Slumgullion slide surged down and dammed a river, ponding the water behind it. The result is Lake San Cristobal, one of Colorado's largest natural lakes, a body of water created not by glaciers or rivers, but by a mountain collapsing across a valley and plugging it like a cork. Avalanche country. Colorado's steep slopes and heavy mountain snows make it the deadliest avalanche state in the nation. Each winter, vast slabs of snow break loose and thunder down the mountainsides at highway speeds, burying roads and backcountry travelers. The same beauty that draws skiers to the high country conceals one of its most lethal natural hazards. The Deadly Bells. The Maroon Bells, often called the most photographed peaks in Colorado, hide a grim reputation. Built of weak, crumbling sedimentary rock, their slopes shed loose stone and break apart underfoot, and they have claimed so many climbers that they earned the nickname the Deadly Bells. Their stunning beauty masks treacherously rotten rock. The Spanish Peaks and their dikes. Rising from the southern plains, the Spanish Peaks are the cause of ancient volcanic activity, surrounded by spectacular walls of rock called dikes. These formed when molten rock forced its way into cracks and hardened underground. Erosion later stripped away the softer surroundings, leaving great stone blades radiating across the landscape, like the spokes of a wheel. The land that never stopped moving. It is tempting to see Colorado's mountains as permanent and still, but the forces that built them are still at work. The Rockies are still rising. The Rio Grande Rift is still prying the crust apart. Slopes keep creeping and collapsing, and the deep magma that fed ancient supervolcanoes has not entirely gone cold. Beneath the postcard scenery, Colorado is still being violently rebuilt. Tonight, while millions of Coloradans sleep, the Rockies are still rising by fractions of an inch. The Rio Grande Rift is still prying the state apart, and somewhere, a slope is quietly preparing to let go. The forces that built Colorado never stopped working. So here's my question. Which would unsettle you most? A reawakened San Juan supervolcano, the slow creep of a collapsing mountainside, or the next great Rocky Mountain earthquake? Leave your answer in the comments below. And if this completely changed the way you see Colorado, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into America's strangest landscapes.